My father told me, "I gave your research patent to your stepsister. She deserves it more." What he didn't know was I had already filed the real patent under my name. Now he regrets it, but it's too late. "I've transferred your research patent to your stepsister." My father's voice, as dispassionately casual as if he were commenting on the day's forecast, crackled through the phone line. "She deserves it more than you. She'll know how to properly commercialize it." I stood rooted in my Stanford lab, the sterile scent of reagents suddenly suffocating. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles blazed white. 5 years. 5 years of relentless dedication, the culmination of my entire life since graduate school, had just been casually relinquished. My father, Robert Carter, CEO of Carter Pharmaceuticals, had dared to give away what was never his to bestow. My name is Alexander Carter. At 32, I am a biochemical researcher, a specialist in targeted drug delivery systems. My work, a potential paradigm shift in cancer treatment, promised greater efficacy with fewer debilitating side effects. And my father had just attempted to hand it over to my 25-year-old stepsister Madison, whose most notable academic achievement was a non-accredited online MBA. "You can't do that," I managed, my voice a taut string despite the tremor of fury that vibrated through me. "The patent isn't yours to transfer." "Of course it is," he scoffed, a sneer audible even across the distance. "Carter Pharmaceuticals funded your research. Everything you develop belongs to the company, and as CEO, I decide who handles what." He paused, and I could vividly picture his self-satisfied smirk. "Madison has the business acumen you lack. She understands the market." My gaze drifted to the computer screen, an email from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, confirming receipt of my independent application, sent 3 months prior. What my father didn't know was that I had anticipated this move. He'd been systematically marginalizing me since his marriage to Madison's mother, Diane, 2 years ago. Key projects, once mine, had been quietly reallocated, my expertise disregarded. "Well," I said, a deliberate calm coating my words, "I hope Madison enjoys trying to commercialize research she doesn't understand. Is there anything else?" The ensuing silence was telling. He'd expected a torrent of tears, impassioned protests, perhaps even desperate pleas. My composed acceptance clearly threw him off balance. That's all. I'll have legal send over the transfer papers." "Good luck with that," I replied and ended the call. The instant the line went dead, I sent a quick text to my lawyer, Sarah Martinez. He did it, just like we predicted. Then, I sank into my desk chair, my hands trembling, not from fear, but from a surge of anticipation. The intricate mechanism I'd painstakingly assembled months ago was finally about to engage. My mind rewound to the day everything irrevocably shifted. It was at the company's annual charity gala 2 years ago. I had just concluded a presentation of my preliminary research findings to a room of eager investors, their positive response echoing in my ears. But instead of a congratulatory word, my father had abruptly steered the conversation towards Madison's recent MBA graduation. "Madison will be joining the company as head of strategic development," he'd announced proudly, his arm around her shoulder. "She'll help modernize our approach, bring fresh perspectives." I watched, a sickening sense of inevitability settling over me, as my years of strenuous effort, my doctorate in biochemistry, my published research papers, all faded into the background. Madison, the new golden child, eclipsed everything. Initially, I made efforts to collaborate, to impart my knowledge of the industry and our complex research protocols. But it swiftly became apparent that Madison harbored no genuine interest in learning. Her sole desire was control. The red flags appeared subtly at first. Restricted access to certain laboratories, members of my research team gradually reassigned to other departments. My funding quietly, almost imperceptibly, diminished. Then I began noticing Madison in high-level meetings concerning my drug delivery system, taking notes, asking questions that exposed her fundamental lack of scientific comprehension. It was then that I reached out to Sarah, an old friend from college who specialized in intellectual property law. "Document everything," she'd advised. "Every email, every restriction, every change, and most importantly, file your own patent application, independently of Carter Pharmaceuticals." I became a nocturnal researcher, spending nights and weekends meticulously logging every facet of my work that wasn't directly supported by company resources. The true breakthrough, the cornerstone of my innovation, had actually occurred during my personal time, utilizing my own lab equipment, all scrupulously recorded and corroborated by independent witnesses. My phone buzzed, Sarah's response confirming, "Papers filed with USPTO, your independent patent application is solid. Their transfer attempt will trigger the investigation we've been waiting for." I pulled open a desk drawer and retrieved a thick folder, its label stark, Project Shield. Within lay every document, every email, every shred of evidence detailing how my father and Madison had systematically attempted to sideline me and appropriate my intellectual property. The official company records would indeed show that while Carter Pharmaceuticals had funded some nascent stages of my research, the pivotal breakthroughs and methodologies were indisputably developed independently. Another text from Sarah pinged, "BTW, that business acumen your stepsister claims? I did some digging. Her online MBA program isn't even accredited." I wasn't surprised. Madison had always prioritized superficial appearances over genuine substance. Her time seemed far more dedicated to crafting LinkedIn posts about being a female pioneer in pharma than to actually immersing herself in pharmaceutical development. My office phone rang, Madison's extension. I let it go to voicemail, already knowing the content. True to form, her message was precisely what I anticipated. "Alex, we need to discuss the transfer of your research project. I have some ideas. For monetization that you clearly haven't considered? Call me ASAP." I began gathering my belongings, a quiet hum of determination vibrating within me. The coming hours would be decisive. The patent challenge would instigate an automatic investigation into the research's origins and development. Every document would be scrutinized, every claim verified. As I packed my laptop, my phone vibrated again, this time with an email from the company's legal department. The subject line read, "Urgent, IP transfer documentation." I forwarded it to Sarah without even opening it. The elevator ride to the parking garage provided a brief respite for reflection. My mother had co-founded Carter Pharmaceuticals with my father 30 years ago. She was the scientific visionary. He managed the business operations. When she succumbed to cancer a decade ago, I had dedicated myself to continuing her work, convinced that together, my father and I could perpetuate her legacy. But something fundamental had shifted within him after he met Diane. Abruptly, the company's scientific bedrock became secondary to its market valuation. Research timelines were inexplicably truncated, protocols hastily streamlined. Madison's arrival had been the definitive breaking point. Suddenly, everyone's worth was measured solely in terms of market potential, not scientific merit. As I reached my car, another call came through. My father. Again. This time, I let it ring. He would have plenty to say to me soon enough. But, first, he needed to confront some unpleasant truths about what he had just tried to summarily give away. I drove directly to Sarah's office, where she and her team were already waiting. The conference room walls were a mosaic of timelines and documents, the meticulous paper trail we'd been constructing for months. "Right on schedule," Sarah observed as I walked in, setting my laptop on the table. "Your father just tried to file the patent transfer paperwork. As expected, it triggered immediate flags with the USPTO since your independent application is already on file." "How long until they realize?" I asked. They probably already have, Sarah replied, a subtle smile playing on her lips. The USPTO would have immediately notified them of the existing patent application. I'd wager your father is having a very illuminating conversation with his legal team right now. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a text from him. What have you done? I showed it to Sarah, who nodded approvingly. Perfect. Let them sweat. While we prepare our response. We have meetings set up with the patent office tomorrow morning. Your documentation is impeccable. They won't be able to claim corporate ownership of your independent research. I pictured Madison, likely in her new office, already strategizing how to claim credit for work she couldn't begin to grasp. I thought of my father, so quick to dismiss my contributions in favor of his new family's ambitions. What happens next? I asked Sarah, though I already knew the answer. Next, she stated, we watch them try to explain how they plan to transfer a patent they don't own. The USPTO takes attempted patent fraud very seriously. Your father's going to have to choose between admitting he tried to steal your research or claiming he didn't do due diligence before attempting to transfer intellectual property. Either way, it's not going to look good for Carter Pharmaceuticals. My phone continued its insistent buzzing. Calls from Madison, my father, the company's legal team. I silenced it, directing my focus back to the documents before me. For the first time in years, I felt an unwavering certainty about my trajectory. I signed the incorporation papers, officially bringing Carter Biotech into existence. A final text from my father. We need to talk, now. I smiled. Yes, I typed back. We certainly do. The following morning, chaos reigned within Carter Pharmaceuticals' legal department. I watched from across the street as lawyers, their faces etched with barely concealed panic, rushed in and out of the building, arms laden with stacks of papers. My father's audacious attempt at patent transfer had spectacularly backfired. Sarah sat beside me in her car, calmly reviewing our documentation one last time before our meeting with the USPTO representatives. Your father has called 6 times. In the last hour, she noted, glancing at my phone. Should we hear what he has to say? I shook my head, watching another group of attorneys hurry into the building. He had plenty of chances to talk before he tried to steal my research. Let him sweat. My thumb buzzed again. Madison this time. Her message made me laugh aloud. This is just a misunderstanding. Daddy was trying to help you by putting more qualified people in charge of your project. Don't ruin everything because you're jealous. More qualified? Sarah snorted, reading over my shoulder. Does she even understand what your research involves? She thinks drug delivery systems are like Uber. For medicine? I replied dryly. Last month, she suggested we should make an app for it. Our meeting with the USPTO wasn't until 10 a.m., but we'd arrived early to observe the unfolding drama. Through the glass walls of Carter Pharmaceuticals' lobby, I could discern figures gathering in the main conference room. My father, Madison, Diane, and what appeared to be half the legal team. Ready? Sarah asked, as another call from my father illuminated my phone screen. I nodded, gathering our files. More than ready. We entered the building just as Madison hurried towards the elevator. She halted abruptly when she saw me, her meticulously maintained composure fracturing for a fleeting moment. Alex, thank God. You need to call off whatever this is. Daddy's furious and you're making us look bad. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. Making you look bad? I raised an eyebrow. You mean, like trying to steal a patent you have no right to steal? She laughed, but it was a brittle, forced sound. Don't be dramatic. We're family. Everything in this company is family property. Carter Biotech isn't family property, I replied calmly, my voice steady. And neither is my research. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows drew together in confusion. Carter, what? Before I could respond, my father's voice boomed across the lobby. Alexandra, in my office, now. I turned to see him standing in the doorway of his corner office, his face flushed with unbridled rage. For a fleeting instant, I saw him as I had as a child, the intimidating figure whose approval I had endlessly sought. But that illusion had shattered. Actually, Sarah interjected, stepping forward, any discussions will need to happen with counsel present. We have a meeting with the USPTO representatives in 20 minutes. Shall we all convene in the main conference room? I watched my father's face darken as he recognized Sarah. He'd encountered her at company events before, but I doubted he had ever envisioned her standing here, in this capacity, challenging him. This is a family matter, he growled. No, I corrected him, my voice firm. This is a legal matter. You tried to transfer a patent you don't own. That's fraud. The word hung in the air like a clap of thunder. Several employees passing through. The lobby paused, their gazes fixed on us. Madison's face had gone ashen. Conference room, my father snapped, spinning on his heel. Everyone, now! The next few minutes dissolved into a blur of frantic activity as lawyers shuffled papers and people scrambled for seats. I sat directly across from my father, Sarah beside me. Madison hovered uncertainly before settling next to Diane, who was attempting to project concern rather than her evident annoyance. The USPTO representatives arrived precisely on time. Two serious-looking women who introduced themselves as Dr. Patricia Wong and Ms. Andrea Martin. They wasted no time delving into the heart of the matter. We're here to address a serious issue, Dr. Wong began. Yesterday, Carter Pharmaceuticals attempted to transfer patent application number 63-197-421 to Madison Carter. However, this patent was independently filed by Dr. Alexander Carter 3 months ago, with no corporate affiliation. There must be some mistake, my father interrupted, his voice strained. All research conducted by Alexander was done under Carter Pharmaceuticals' umbrella. Any resulting patents belong to the company. Sarah offered a thin smile, sliding a document across the table. Actually, we have extensive documentation showing that the key breakthroughs were developed independently, using Dr. Carter's personal resources and time. The following hour was excruciating for my father and Madison as Sarah methodically presented our evidence. The independent lab logs, meticulous documentation of how my access had been systematically restricted, emails explicitly illustrating the concerted effort to push me out. It all coalesced into an unassailable picture. Furthermore, Sarah continued, we have evidence that Ms. Madison Carter has been falsely representing her qualifications. Her claimed MBA is from an unaccredited institution, which raises serious questions about the company's due diligence in attempting to transfer complex biochemical patents to her supervision. Madison's face, already pale, flushed a furious red. That's not relevant. My degree is just as valid as Alex's. Is it? I asked quietly. Then perhaps you can explain to everyone here how my targeted drug delivery system works, since you're so qualified to take it over. The silence that followed was deafening. Madison looked desperately to my father for salvation, but he was staring at the documents before him, his face ashen. Dr. Wong cleared her throat. Based on the evidence presented, it's clear that patent application number 63-197-421 was properly filed by Dr. Alexander Carter as an independent researcher. Any attempt to transfer it without her consent would constitute patent fraud. Additionally, Ms. Martinez added, we'll need to investigate the circumstances surrounding this attempted transfer. Patent fraud is a serious offense. My father finally looked up, his expression a desperate blend of anger and pleading. Alexandra, you can't do this. To the company. To our family. Our family, I repeated, my voice steady but infused with a chilling frost. You mean the family that tried to steal my life's work? The family that pushed me aside for someone who doesn't even understand basic biochemistry? I was trying to protect you, he exploded. You're brilliant in the lab, but you don't understand business. Madison knows how to monetize research, how to make it profitable. Like she monetized her fake MBA? The words came out sharper than I intended, but I couldn't stop. Or maybe like how she planned to monetize research she can't even comprehend. Madison burst into tears, her predictable tactic when things didn't go her way. Diane wrapped an arm around her, glaring at me. "There's no need to be cruel," she snapped. "Madison was only trying to help." "Help?" I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "By stealing my patent? By trying to take credit for years of my work? Enough!" My father slammed his hand on the table. "What do you want, Alexandra? Money? A promotion? Name your price." Sarah and I exchanged glances. This was the precise moment we had orchestrated. "Actually," I said, sliding the Carter Biotech Incorporation papers across the polished conference table, "I don't want anything from Carter Pharmaceuticals. I've started my own company. My research, my patents, my future, they all go with me." The silence was absolute, heavier than the weight of the moment. My father picked up the papers with trembling hands, his face growing redder as he scanned the contents. "You can't compete with us," he finally managed, but his voice lacked conviction. "We have the resources, the connections." "You have Madison's expertise in making apps," I countered. "I have the actual science. Let's see which matters more to investors." As Sarah and I departed the building, my phone buzzed. An email from an investor who had expressed keen interest in my research at that fateful gala. The subject line read, "Interested in backing Carter Biotech." I smiled, showing it to Sarah. The future, in that moment, seemed undeniably brighter than the past. "Ready to change the world?" she asked. "More than ready," I replied. The first month of establishing Carter Biotech blurred into a whirlwind of meetings, paperwork, and late nights. I had successfully secured temporary lab space at a biotech incubator, and several of my former research team members had enthusiastically joined me, eager to continue our vital work, free from suffocating corporate interference. I was deep in the review of grant applications when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. "Dr. Alexandra Carter speaking." "Alexandra, it's Charles Montgomery from the FDA Advisory Board." My heart executed a sudden, disorienting leap. Montgomery was a revered figure in pharmaceutical regulation, a veritable legend. "I heard about your split from Carter Pharmaceuticals. Quite the splash you're making in the industry." I straightened in my chair. "I hope it's the research making the splash, not the family drama." He chuckled. "Both, if we're being honest. But I'm calling about the research. Your targeted delivery system. It's impressive. We'd like you to present at next month's Innovation Summit." Before I could formulate a response, Sarah burst into my office, her face taut with urgency. "Alex, turn on the financial news, now!" I quickly activated Montgomery's speakerphone and pulled up the newsfeed on my laptop. My father's image filled the screen, standing at a podium in the Carter Pharmaceuticals lobby. "Proud to announce our groundbreaking new drug delivery system," he was proclaiming, his voice resonating with manufactured gravitas. "Developed by our brilliant head of strategic development, Madison Carter." The coffee mug in my hand slipped, shattering against the floor. "Is that what I think it is?" Montgomery's voice cut through the nascent chaos, sharp with incredulity. "They're trying to steal my research," I articulated, watching in horror. As Madison stepped up to the podium, incongruously adorned in a lab coat, as if it were a costume. "They're announcing it as their own. We expect FDA approval within months," Madison was declaring, meticulously reading from note cards. "Our proprietary system uses targeted molecular recognition to deliver therapeutic agents directly to diseased cells." "Those are my words," I whispered, a cold dread creeping over me. "That's from my patent application." Sarah was already on her phone. "Get me Judge Harrison. Yes, I know what time it is. This is an emergency injunction situation." Montgomery's voice, now devoid of humor, sliced through the escalating pandemonium. "Alexandra, I'm going to hang up now. because I suspect I'll be involved in the official response to this. But off the record, nail them to the wall. The next few hours were a dizzying blur. Sarah's team worked feverishly, filing for an emergency injunction, while I meticulously gathered every piece of documentation proving the indisputable origin of my research. The biotech community buzzed with a mix of confusion and fevered speculation. Around midnight, my father finally called. "Bold move," I answered, my voice deliberately frigid. "This could have been avoided," he said, sounding unexpectedly weary. "You could have stayed, been part of the family business. Instead, you forced our hand." "Force your hand into committing patent fraud on national television?" I shot back. "It's not fraud if it's our research. Everything you did while employed here belongs to us. You know that." "You know that's not true," I retorted. "You saw the documentation. The USPTO confirmed my independent patent. What you're doing isn't just unethical, it's illegal." "It's business," he snapped. "Madison's announcement has already boosted our stock price. By the time any legal challenges play out, we'll have established market position." "You really think you can get away with this?" "I think you should consider coming back," he said, his voice softening, a manipulative overture. "There's still time to fix this, to be a family again." I thought of my mother, of how utterly devastated she would be to witness what he had become. "We stopped being a family the moment you tried to steal my work." The line went dead. Sarah arrived early the next morning, her face alight with triumph. "Judge Harrison granted the emergency injunction. Carter Pharmaceuticals has to cease all public claims about the delivery system, pending a full hearing." "That won't undo the damage," I countered, showing her my inbox, now a deluge of concerned emails from potential investors. "They're creating market confusion, making people question the legitimacy of my research. Then we fight back, not just legally. We need to tell our story." She pulled out her tablet. "The Wall Street Journal wants to interview you. So does Nature Biotechnology. People need to hear the truth from the actual scientist behind the research." I hesitated. I had always preferred to let my work speak for itself, to remain in the quiet solitude of the lab. "But now, Alex," Sarah said gently, her eyes unwavering, "your father is counting on you to stay quiet, staying professional. That's how they'll get away with this. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense." She was right. That afternoon, I sat down with the Journal reporter and laid bare everything: my mother's founding legacy, the systematic marginalization in favor of Madison, the brazen attempt at patent theft. I meticulously walked her through the science, unequivocally delineating which parts constituted my independent research. The story broke the next morning. Biotech battle. Daughter claims father's company tried to steal cancer research. The scientific community erupted. Former colleagues reached out, confirming my account. Other researchers shared analogous stories of corporate appropriation. Madison attempted damage control, scheduling interviews to defend her fabricated role, but she crumbled under even rudimentary technical questions, making her profound lack of scientific understanding painfully obvious. Then came the bombshell. Dr. Wong from the USPTO issued an official statement confirming my independent patent application and the ongoing investigation into Carter Pharmaceuticals' illicit transfer attempt. The company's stock price plummeted. I was in the lab, running tests with my team, when Diane appeared unannounced. "You're destroying your father," she stated, devoid of preamble. "Is that what you want?" I carefully set down my pipette. "He's destroying himself. I'm just refusing to be collateral damage. He built this company from nothing. He built it with my mother," I corrected, my gaze steady. "And she built it on real science, not fraud and theft." Diane's perfectly maintained, facade cracked, almost imperceptibly. "Just tell me what you want. Money? A public apology? Name your price to end this." I looked at her designer ensemble, her glittering, expensive jewelry, all funded by the company my mother had helped create. I want what's mine. My research, my patents, my reputation. Nothing more, nothing less. You're being stubborn. No, I cut her off. I'm being honest. Something this family seems to have forgotten how to do. After she departed, one of my researchers, Dr. Park, approached hesitantly. Dr. Carter, the preliminary trials, you might want to see this. The results were beyond our most optimistic projections. The delivery system was demonstrating unprecedented accuracy in targeting cancer cells while leaving healthy tissue entirely unaffected. This wasn't merely about patents or corporate maneuvering anymore. This could save lives. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Turn on CNBC now. Madison was giving another interview, but this time, something was different. She looked visibly nervous, fidgeting relentlessly with her notes. Miss Carter, the interviewer pressed, multiple sources have questioned your credentials and your role in developing this technology. Can you explain exactly what your contribution was? Madison's composure shattered. I helped with the business side, the monetization strategy. But you claim to have developed the actual delivery system? That is, Daddy said. She dissolved into tears and fled off camera. Within hours, Carter Pharmaceuticals issued a terse statement, clarifying that Madison had overseen, but not directly developed, the technology. But the damage was irreparable. Their credibility was in tatters. That evening, my father's oldest friend and Carter Pharmaceuticals head of research, Dr. James Chen, paid an unexpected visit to my lab. Your mother would be proud, he observed, looking around, his gaze lingering on the bustling activity. She always said you had her gift, for seeing what others missed. Did you know? I asked, my voice low. I suspected, he admitted. Things changed after your father married Diane. Suddenly everything was about quick profits, market perception. Science became secondary. Why didn't you say anything? I should have, he conceded, a heavy sigh escaping him. But I'm saying, something now. Half the research department wants to work for you. I looked around my lab, at the earnest faces of my team, at the profound potential of the work we were undertaking, at the countless lives we could positively impact. This was what my mother had envisioned. Genuine science, tangible progress, unwavering integrity. One more thing, Sarah added, who had just joined us. That interview you did? It's going viral in the scientific community. You're becoming a symbol for women in science, standing up against corporate theft. People are calling you the future of biotech. I smiled, thinking of Madison in her costume-like lab coat, pretending to be something she was not. No, I said. I'm just being who I've always been, my mother's daughter. The FDA investigation into Carter Pharmaceuticals uncovered far more than just attempted patent theft. Internal audits unearthed a damning pattern of rushed trials, manipulated data, and egregious corner-cutting that stretched back to shortly after my father's marriage to Diane. I was in a meeting with potential investors when Sarah burst in, her face flushed with excitement. Alex, turn on the news. Now. The headline scrolling across the screen caused my heart to seize. Carter Pharmaceuticals CEO steps down amid investigation. There was my father, looking aged and utterly defeated, reading a prepared statement. In light of recent events and the ongoing FDA investigation, he announced to the cameras, his voice thin, I am announcing my immediate resignation as CEO of Carter Pharmaceuticals. I acknowledge that under my leadership the company strayed from its founding principles. The investor representatives, 3 major venture capital firms, watched with keen interest. Well, said Victoria Chang, the lead investor I'd been speaking with, I'd say this makes our decision easier. Dr. Carter, your mother built Carter Pharmaceuticals on scientific integrity. From what we've seen, you're doing the same with Carter. Biotech. 2 hours later, I had secured $50 million in Series A funding and a crystal clear path forward for my research. My phone buzzed incessantly with messages, former colleagues, industry contacts, even old family friends. But one message stood out. "Can we talk, Madison?" I almost deleted it, but curiosity, a persistent, nagging current, won out. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe far from both our offices. Madison looked different. No designer clothes, no impeccably styled hair. She seemed smaller somehow, more genuinely human. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as I sat down. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need to say it." I studied her face, searching for the familiar flicker of manipulation I'd grown accustomed to. Instead, I found something that resembled genuine remorse. "Why did you do it?" I asked. "You must have known you'd be exposed eventually." She stared into her coffee cup. "Daddy made it sound so simple. He said you were being selfish, that family companies needed to stick together. I believed him because I wanted to believe I could be what he wanted." She looked up, her eyes glistening. "I never understood what you did. The science, the research. It was like a foreign language, but I wanted so badly to matter." "So you tried to steal something you didn't understand?" "I convinced myself that wasn't stealing, that it was just family resources being redistributed." She wiped her eyes. "God, I sound just like him, don't I?" Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with an urgent message from Sarah. "FDA report dropping in 10 minutes. It's worse than we thought." The report was devastating. Years of rushed trials, manipulated data, and ignored safety protocols. Carter Pharmaceuticals' stock plummeted further. The board announced an emergency meeting. Madison read the news on her phone, her face paling rapidly. "He knew," she whispered. "Daddy knew about all of this. That's why he was so desperate to announce my version of your research. He needed a win to distract from what was coming." "And you were his shield," I realized. "If things went wrong, you'd take the fall as the inexperienced newcomer who mishandled everything." Tears streamed down her cheeks. I was so stupid. Looking at her, I felt my anger soften into something akin to pity. "Yes, you were, but you weren't the only one he manipulated." My phone buzzed again. "Dr. Chen." "Alexandra, the board's voted. They're cleaning house. Your father, Diane, the entire executive team. They want to talk to you." "Me? Why?" "They want to restore the company's credibility. They're thinking about the symbolism of having Robert Carter's daughter, Catherine's daughter, help rebuild." I thought about my mother, about the company she'd painstakingly built, about the unwavering principles she'd instilled in me. Then, I thought about Carter Biotech, about the groundbreaking work we were doing, about the lives we could save. "Tell them I'm honored," I said, "but I've already got a company. One built on the same principles my mother valued." Madison was watching me. "You're not coming back?" "No," I confirmed. "But maybe it's time you built something of your own, too. Something real this time." Later that evening, as I worked late in my lab, I had one final visitor. My father. He looked old, utterly drained, a stark contrast to the intimidating figure who had attempted to appropriate my research months ago. "I suppose you're happy now," he said, sinking into a chair. "The mighty Robert Carter brought down by his own daughter?" "You brought yourself down," I corrected him. "I just refused to let you take me with you. I was trying to protect the company." "No," I cut him off. "You were trying to protect yourself. Mom built that company on scientific integrity, on helping people. You turned it into a shell game of quick profits and corner cutting." He flinched at the mention of my mother. "Catherine, she would be disappointed in me, wouldn't she?" "Yes," I said quietly. "She would. And you? What would make you happy now? Money? Control of the company?" I gestured around my lab. "This makes me happy. Real research, real science. Real progress. Everything Mom taught me to value. He looked around, truly seeing it for the first time. The state-of-the-art equipment, the busy researchers, the wall of whiteboards covered in complex formulas. You really did it, he said softly. Built all this on your own. No thanks to me. He stood slowly. I don't suppose there's any way to fix this? I thought about all the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal. Not between us, but you can still fix yourself. Tell the truth, take responsibility, be someone Mom would have been proud of. After he left, I sat in my lab, reflecting on everything that had transpired. My father had attempted to give away my life's work, but in doing so, he had inadvertently forced me to build something far superior, something unequivocally mine. Sarah found me there hours later. The board's handling the FDA violations, implementing new oversight. They're talking about renaming the company, making a fresh start. Good, I said. It needs one. And us? The latest trials are showing amazing results. We're on track for FDA approval months ahead of schedule. I smiled, thinking of my mother, of her unwavering dedication to genuine science. Then let's keep going. There are people waiting for this treatment. Lives we can save. Speaking of saving things, Sarah added, a hint of something unreadable in her voice. Madison called. She's enrolled in community college, studying basics chemistry. Says she wants to understand the science this time, not just pretend. I thought about Madison's genuine tears in the cafe, about the oppressive weight of expectations, and the quiet courage it takes to begin anew. Good for her, I said sincerely. The next morning, I arrived early at the lab, watching the sunrise paint the sky through the vast windows. On my desk sat a small package. Inside was my mother's old lab notebook, sent by Dr. Chen. On the very first page, in her familiar, elegant script, she had written words I'd never seen before. To my Alexandra, who sees the world not just as it is, but as it could be. Never let anyone dim your light or steal your dreams. You are capable of more than they know. Love, Mom. I traced her handwriting with my finger, feeling closer to her than I had in years. She'd known somehow that I would need these words someday. Sarah appeared in my doorway. Ready to change the world? I smiled, picking up my mother's notebook, its worn cover a testament to a life dedicated to discovery. More than ready. Let's show them what real innovation looks like. Looking out at my team, at the profound work we were doing, at the future we were meticulously building, I felt nothing but a profound sense of gratitude. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better.